So I'm going to keep pausing this as I make my list of statements, or not my list of statements, but a list of statements about attainments, having gained attainments, and stages of attainments. And also I'm going to talk about how we can easily be mistaken and how to check, and if we have teachers, how our teachers should also check, or if we are teachers, how we should check others for these things, because what comes hand in hand with great attainments is the danger of getting high on those attainments, or to misinterpret those attainments. And one thing that is never usually permitted in strict teachings, which are derived from the Buddhist teachings, from the Buddha's teachings, is that one cannot measure one's own progress, and that if others measure your progress, then it should be a person who has attained a higher state than the state they are recognizing. And so an academic cannot define who is a Sotapanna, who is a Sakadagami, who is an Anagami, and who is an Arahant. But an Arahant can define all of the 4 stages. An Anagami might be able to define a Sotapanna or a Sakadagami or another Anagami, or maybe not, because not all enlightened beings have all abilities or all gifts or all faculties of what normal humans call supernatural, but which are actually just realized they're not supernatural. The only thing that's supernatural is arahantship, because it abandons all of our instincts of self-preservation. It goes against the self-preservation instinct, which is natural phase of evolution, a natural element of the evolutionary process for the species to protect itself and survive. We need egoism. It's part of the Mara of the physical universe, of the physical incarnate world. Anyway, so the first thing I wanted to start with, as a list of things to say, is that the unenlightened mind is the mind that thinks it has gained attainments, and it thinks in Thai we say "kidด้วยรูปแบบตัวอัตตา," to think in the mode of the self, to see things through the lens of a self. And this includes anatta, non-self, that the sensation or the idea of things being non-self, the seeing of it, can also make one think that one has realized not self within one's own aggregates, because one is seeing not selfness. But it is possible for a self to define not self, be it academically, in words or writing, and it's also possible to misinterpret that one has fully attained the realization of not self, and say, look, I have attained the realization of not self. But if there's no self, then how can there be anybody to have attained it? And so as soon as one starts to think, I have attained the state of Sotapanna, I have attained the state of Sakadagami, I have attained the state of anakami. I have attained the state of arahant. One is thinking in the mode of the I. And this is where many, many, many great practitioners who have achieved great attainments and advancements in Dhamma and realizations, and even perhaps stages of enlightenment, but who have misjudged themselves, and they have declared themselves as arahants because they see something, but they haven't seen it all yet. And it's so easy, and it will usually happen to most practitioners more than once along the path, more than once, to think that one has attained enlightenment when in truth one is actually trying to take non-self and keep it as your own possession and make it I have seen, not self. It is mine. The I tries to sustain itself and tries to cross that abyss and tries to own and be part of something it can never be part of. Something it can never be part of. And this is, there are things called the 10 Vipassanupakilesa, 10 Vipassanupakilesas, the 10 kilesas or defilements of Vipassana, mental defilements, which are in themselves actually advancements and attainments in the advancements towards enlightenment, but which in themselves become often distractions and cause the ego to arise and take part in the play again. And it's so easy to deceive oneself. And even if somebody you respect, who you consider to be of high standing or of wisdom, tells you that you are an arahant or that you are an enlightened person or you have attained the knowledge of this or the status of that, actually you shouldn't trust them, and you shouldn't trust your own judgment either. You should just keep practicing and focus on that. And there should be no reason to wish to tell anybody you have attained something. There should be no focus on any of those things at all. There should be no focus on I am this or I am that. There should be just, this guy says I'm an anakami. That's just meaningless because it's sankhara and it's dream thinking, because the attainments only exist in the mind of the unenlightened human who is dream thinking. But he who is not dream thinking and has destroyed the false view of a self and attained insight into the not self nature of all things, and has abandoned the 10 fetters, or has abandoned 5 fetters even, will just look ahead and keep practicing for what has not yet been gathered and attained and accumulated, and will not have any concern. And so I would think a Sotapanna or a Sakadagami or an Anakami or an Arahant would definitely not rush to him from his friends of his great attainment. And if he was told of this attainment by a superior, he would also not trust that, unless he was taking it from the words of a living Buddha, a living Arahant, because the only person who can judge an Anakami and declare one, as far as my insight allows me to see, and it's not my insight, it's just a phrase, but I am not enlightened, and so I am still prone to use that phraseology. And so the insights that have arisen within this consciousness in this moment, as far as this consciousness knows in this moment, then this consciousness would maintain does not wish to have a view, but this consciousness would make the assumption that only an Arahant can recognize and declare an Anakami, and that an Anakami or not, any practitioner who is having realizations should not take any notice of anybody who is not an Arahant, who you do not know is an Arahant, telling you what your status is, because there is nobody to have the status. There is only the practice and what is arising and what is ceasing. And this process of arising and ceasing in sankhara, and there is only realizing and slowly extracting oneself from samsara. But there is no, I have become an anakami, or I have become a sotapanna, or I have become an arahant. There is none of that. And if you're thinking that, then you're misleading yourself, or you have been misled by the Vipassanupakilesas, which are the mental defilements. But you may have attained one of those great achievements, which is jnana or jhana, and attaining vipassana jnana. And there are a lot of different things to see, and the experience of existence has a lot of transformations. But that final letting go, that final snapping of the cycle of paticca of the dependent origination, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. And it doesn't come that easy. So that's my talk for today, which I will be sharing with any friend who jumps the gun, and any friend who has maybe attained any of these states. Because if they have, then this won't be relevant and it doesn't matter. And if they haven't, then this is going to be a very valid tool. It's served me to save me from many self-deceptions in Vipassana. And I think any good practitioner will not be afraid to use it on themselves, to really see if they can destroy their own ignorance to the final point where paticca stops. May we all develop in Dhamma. Charan Tham Satu. Have a nice time, everybody.